I still remember sitting in a bar when the whole game flipped. She was stunning. Not in a loud way, but in that kind of quiet, unnerving beauty that makes you wonder if she sees through you. Hair tucked behind one ear. Sipping a drink she probably didn't even like. She glanced around the room like nothing could touch her. But then, something strange happened. She locked eyes with me and smiled first. That one moment taught me more about attraction than any book or podcast ever could. Because I didn't do anything. I didn't smile. I didn't raise my glass. I didn't nod or approach. I just looked at her. Neutral, calm, unmoved. And it drove her insane. Later that night, she leaned in and asked, "What's your deal? You just seem like you're somewhere else." And that's when it hit me. Mystery isn't a game. It's power. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to carry that power so deeply that she'll feel like she's chasing smoke and love every second of it. She doesn't fall for your smile. She doesn't fall for your compliments. She doesn't even fall for your looks. Not in the way you think. What she falls for is the gravity you carry when you don't explain yourself. When your presence raises more questions than it answers. When you make her feel something without giving her anything to hold on to. That night at the bar, I didn't say much. I let the silences stretch. She asked questions. I answered with half-truths wrapped in calm delivery. I didn't lie, I just didn't perform. And that's the first key. Mystery isn't about pretending. It's about refusing to perform. You exist as you are, and you let her wonder why. She leans in. She searches for edges she can grip. But when your energy doesn't lean back, when you don't flinch, overtalk, overshare, she can't find the boundaries. And when a woman can't map a man, she obsesses. Because mystery, to her nervous system, feels like a threat she wants to tame. But here's where most guys blow it. They confuse mystery with manipulation. They try to create mystery by acting aloof or quoting clever things online. But none of that works. Because the second your intent is to appear mysterious, you've already broken the spell. Real mystery lives in the man who doesn't need to be understood. You don't dodge questions to be clever, you simply don't volunteer your soul. You don't rush to fill awkward gaps, you let her feel the friction. You're not cold, you're composed. And she senses that something in you is deeply held, deeply protected. She doesn't know what. That's why she wants it. I remember her fingers tracing the edge of her glass, her legs crossed and uncrossed as if trying to stabilize something inside. She smiled at everything I said, but her eyes weren't relaxed. They were calculating, searching. "Are you seeing anyone?" she asked. I shrugged. There's always someone. She didn't like the answer, but she didn't walk away either. She bit her lip and leaned closer. That's what mystery does. It activates the part of her that wants to unlock, possess, decode, and that part doesn't sleep once it's triggered. But here's the catch: mystery doesn't chase. It waits. The moment you start rewarding her curiosity with validation, the chase dies. The moment you drop your center to prove you're a good guy, the illusion shatters. She wants to feel like she discovered something sacred, not like you handed her a brochure. So what does that look like in real life? You speak less, but when you do, it's exact. You don't say, "I'm just chilling," when she asks what you've been up to. You say, "I've been building something," then leave it there. No details. Let her mind do the rest. You don't tell her about your past unless it bleeds into the present. You don't talk about your future unless it's already in motion. You're not projecting hopes. You're executing silence. And it drives her insane in the most addictive way. Because here's what no one tells you. Women don't fall in love with clarity. They fall in love with imagination. And the more space you give her to imagine who you are, the more enchanted she becomes by her own version of you. You become a mirror she can't quite see through. A puzzle that keeps shifting. But it only works if it's real. If you actually have things going on in your life that you don't advertise, if your silence isn't empty but rooted, if your detachment isn't fake but disciplined, because when you truly don't need her, and yet remain present, she feels a rare gravity. She can't place you, and that scares her in the exact way attraction needs to. Most men expose too much too soon. They show their wounds, brag about their goals, overplay every emotion hoping she'll understand them. But you're not trying to be understood. You're trying to be felt. You don't reveal, you radiate. You're not a paragraph, you're a poem she keeps rereading. You are the storm without a weather report. The locked door with footsteps behind it. The calm voice with a wild past that never asks for pity. And when she's with you, her nervous system isn't relaxed, it's alert. On edge. Alive. That's what keeps her coming back. Not comfort. Not certainty. But the sacred anxiety that maybe you're the one thing she can never fully name. That tension becomes the drug. She tells herself she doesn't want it. That she's looking for something simple, clear, predictable. But her body says otherwise. Her gaze lingers longer on the man who doesn't rush. Her thoughts drift back to the guy who never explained. Her messages come slower, but with more weight. What are you doing tonight becomes less about plans, more about testing the boundary. And every time you stay rooted, every time you reply like a man with other fires to tend, she sinks deeper into the pull. She starts conversations to study your tone. She asks questions she already knows the answers to. She calls just to hear if your voice is still calm. Because mystery is not just attraction, it's psychological gravity. She orbits you, not because you're distant, but because your core is dense and she can't break through. But here's where your discipline is tested. She'll try to open you. She'll bring stories, confessions, tears. She'll show vulnerability like a key. And if you reach to match her, if you unpack your soul to meet hers, she wins. And not in the way you think. She gets what she wanted, but she loses what made her want you. She wanted to know you because not knowing you hurt. That ache made you sacred. Once you hand her the map, the terrain flattens. You're no longer the mysterious mountain, just another guy with emotional slideshows and too much time. She won't tell you that. She might even say she appreciates the honesty. But inside, something drops. The current fades. The chase is over. And this is where most men self-destruct. They confuse connection with disclosure. They believe intimacy is about matching energy. They believe mystery is loneliness, not presence. But she doesn't need your scars narrated. She needs your presence to remain unshaken. Think of it like this. You're the fire in a dark room. She gathers close, mesmerized by the glow. If you leap up and hand her a flashlight, the magic dies. She doesn't want the room lit, she wants the fire. She wants the warmth, the flicker, the shadows it casts. The not knowing is what draws her closer. So when she opens up, you don't match it, you hold space. You nod, you listen, you breathe, and then you change the subject. Not out of coldness, but composure. You're not rushing into mutual confession. You're grounded in your rhythm, and nothing she says can shake it loose. That's what makes you rare. And rarity is what keeps her chasing. Because here's the truth. No one wants to say most men are far too available. Not just physically, but psychologically. Their minds are easy to read. Their reactions are predictable. Their emotions are posted like signs on a wall. So she plays for a few days, gets bored, and moves on. But when you stay unreadable, not in a robotic way, but in a deeply lived, quietly complex way, she feels something she can't explain. She won't even call it attraction at first. It'll come out as confusion, curiosity, even frustration. Why won't he tell me more about himself? She'll ask her friends. And they'll give the worst advice possible, just walk away. But she won't, because the feminine doesn't leave mystery, it circles it, tests it, returns to it, hoping this time she'll get just a little closer. And sometimes, you'll be tempted to reward that. You'll want to give in. You'll want to say, okay, here's who I am. But the moment you do that to relieve her tension, you betray yourself. Because mystery isn't something you wield, it's something you are. It's in your walk, your silence, your detachment from her emotional tempo. You don't rush to fill awkwardness. You let the silence mature. You don't follow her emotional leads. You stay anchored in your own tide. You don't chase clarity. You become the storm she studies from a distance. That's the power of real masculine mystery. It isn't cold. It's unfazed. It's not rude. It's rooted. And it doesn't beg to be seen. It makes her want to look again. And again. And again, until she forgets what she was chasing and just wants to be near the source. Because the truth is simple, the less she knows for sure, the more she needs to find out. She tells herself she's not obsessed. She says it out loud to friends. He's just interesting. But it's a lie because by now, you've occupied space inside her that can't be evicted. A silence that echoes in her thoughts. A presence that lingers even when you're gone. That's the paradox. You don't give her answers, but she starts rearranging her life like she already belongs in yours. She dresses differently around you. Smiles in smaller doses. Stops posting too much. Because deep down, she senses she's being watched by someone who doesn't flinch. Doesn't beg. Doesn't need. She adjusts. She waits. She tries to find a signal that she's close. And you, if you're disciplined, don't move. Not because you're playing a role, but because you know what's at stake. You know that once you give her clarity too early, she leaves. And here's where the game becomes a meditation. Every text she sends is bait. Every compliment she offers is an invitation to drop your center. Every question she asks is a chance to prove something, and your power is in never proving anything. You don't say I miss you unless you mean it in silence. You don't explain where you've been unless it's already obvious in your vibe. You don't chase. You don't reveal. You embody. Mystery isn't about being unavailable. It's about being undisturbed. She needs to feel like she's on a journey every time she's with you. Not a checklist, not a resume review, but a spiritual drift into something she can't define. And here's the real secret. When she can't define you, she starts to define herself through you. Your silence becomes her mirror. Your absence becomes her confrontation. Your mystery becomes her ritual. And the chase never ends because the destination was never the point. She doesn't actually want to win you. She wants to orbit you forever. It's feminine nature drawn to the man who won't collapse, who won't break open just to make her feel safe. She's been with men who gave it all up front, who dumped their souls in the first week, who showed their wounds like trophies and begged for love as a reward. It bored her. It made her feel powerful. And power, to the feminine, kills desire. But you're untouchable. Not because you hide but because you carry so much within that can't be touched by anyone. And if she earns a sliver of it, if she catches even a glimpse of your internal world, she treasures it like gold. She won't even tell her friends what you said. She'll hold it like a secret, because it felt like she saw lightning behind your eyes. And she won't know when she'll see it again. That's what keeps her loyal. Not fear, not rules, but the addiction to moments that feel like discovering fire in a cold world. You don't have to be rich. You don't have to be famous. You don't have to be ripped. You just have to stop giving everything away. The masculine man holds. The feminine woman reaches. And when you let her reach without ever flinching, without ever collapsing, she never stops coming closer. That's how she chases you forever. Not because you tricked her, but because you never betrayed your silence.